How do you tell others about what you think is worth telling? No one was ever given exact directions. You were turned loose in a region, and the assignment was see what is really there. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What actually is the human condition?
Hey guys, welcome to the podcast In My Room. It is your host, Jazz, and in this episode we are talking about women of the world, because women are so amazing in so many different ways, and we have so many women in the world that are very influential and remind us every day how empowering it is to be a female. And so I thought that this would be my special for Women's History Month, for the month of March, and I am very excited about this episode. I love talking about women, and so of course I only chose a handful of women to talk about, and there are many more other women to be recognized and talked about, and many other women to talk about individually in their own dedicated podcast episodes. So if you enjoy this type of episode, please let me know. I know that this will not be the last episode that I have like this. So with that being said, I will be talking about 8 different women that I aspire, that I find so powerful and just all around amazing and beautiful in so many ways, that I had to talk about them on my podcast, especially for Women's History Month. And these are the women that remind me how great it is to be a female. You know, despite everything that we might have to go through, these women remind me that you are a woman and you should not forget it. And you should make it count as being a woman and make a difference for other women, and not just other women, but people in general. So the first woman that I want to talk about is J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling is one of my most favorite women ever. She is just such a strong woman in so many ways. She literally is a literary phenomenon now. But when you learn about her past, you can't help but find her story so inspiring and just so mind-blowing. And if you don't know who J.K. Rowling is, then you're obviously living under a rock. But she is known for being the author of the Harry Potter series, and we all know what the Harry Potter series is. We've all been impacted by Harry Potter in some way, whether we've read the books or not. She created this culture for people because it's impacted us so greatly, and the fact that she did that is just like, she did that. She really did do that. And what I want to talk about is that publishers rejected the pitch for Harry Potter 12 different times. 12 different times J.K. Rowling was rejected, and she stuck through it. She was determined and she did not give up. But not only did they reject her, publishers also told her that instead of using her real name, she should use initials, because that young boys would be less willing to read a book if it was written by a female. And sadly, she did go with using her initials, but in a way, I see it as a really strong statement that she did use her initials, because people know that a female wrote the Harry Potter books, and that didn't stop anybody from reading the books. And like I just mentioned, she turned Harry Potter into this culture for the world, and that to me is just a huge slap in the face for the publishers that didn't believe in her, that didn't see her vision, that only tried to bring her down rather than actually standing in her perspective. What carried her through her difficulties was the confidence that she had in what she was doing. She chose to believe in yourself and rise back up when you've fallen. And if there's anybody that knows adversity and resilience any better than anyone else, it's her. I mean, there's been many other people who have gone through adversity, but J.K. Rowling is always the first person that I think of when it comes to adversity and resilience. So I want to include a couple of quotes from each of the women that I talk about, and I'm not going to explain the quotes because they really do speak for themselves, especially from who they're coming from. So the two quotes that I'm going to share from J.K. Rowling are, "You sort of start thinking anything's possible if you've got enough nerve," and "It is impossible to live without failing at something unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all, in which case you fail by default." And they really do speak for themselves. Just like I said, these two quotes are two quotes that I go by a lot, and overall I had to include J.K. Rowling, and I really have to give her her own episode because she is just so amazing, and so there's not enough words to describe how awesome she is. I mean, she did so much, and there really is more to than what I just said, and there's really more to what I say about all of these women that I'm going to talk about. But moving on to the next woman is Madonna. Madonna, we all know, she is somebody that is known by first name basis. Now, Madonna was a very controversial figure during her time. She was known for her provocativeness in her music, in her dancing, in her style, in any way that she presented herself. She's a symbol of determination and self-invention with her unique style of being provocative. And what I want to talk about is one of her most controversial songs, Like a Prayer. Like a Prayer was so controversial that brands were forced to stop the brand deals with her, the contracts that they had with her, because she was getting so much backlash and so much controversy because of what she talked about and what was shown in the music video. But despite this, she couldn't be underestimated or restricted with limits by anybody because she had this song at the #1 spot on the Billboard Hot 100 for 3 weeks. And the album that this song was on sold more than 15 million copies. Now, that is very successful despite everything that came with this song. And she really did shut up all the people who wanted to stop working with her because of this one incident of many other incidents that she would put herself through because she wanted to. She really did not care about what people thought of her, because if she cared about what people thought of her, she'd be doing what she thought everybody liked, and she didn't care about that. She did not care about that. So she did what she wanted to do, and she presented herself the way she wanted to present herself in such a strong statement which many artists today should consider that if it wasn't for Madonna and how she changed the music pop culture like she did, there wouldn't be a lot of the things that there are now when it comes to music and performances. And the two quotes that I am going to share are, a lot of people are afraid to say what they want. That's why they don't get what they want. And if your joy is derived from what society thinks of you, you're always going to be disappointed. Coming from Madonna, those quotes are very strong. And just like J.K. Rowling's quotes, these two quotes I hold with me with everything that I do. And Madonna is Madonna. Everybody knows her, and she made it that way. She made it where nobody would forget her and everybody would know her. And I just find that so astonishing. And so the next woman is Coco Chanel. Coco Chanel is such a genius. I mean, such a genius. I'm obsessed with Coco Chanel. Coco Chanel refashioned style in so many different ways in her years of working within the fashion industry. What I want to talk about specifically is the logo. So Coco Chanel designed her own logo, and you can't help but feel so mind blown when you learn why she designed herself a logo for Coco Chanel. Coco Chanel designed her own logo, which is the symbol of the two linked C's. And she was a genius with this because she had a reason behind designing her logo. She knew that people were going to buy things based on logos. She knew that people would buy her clothing and her perfumes because it had her logo on it. She predicted the logo mania of people buying things because of logos on the clothes, on the bags, on everything that brand makes. And if it wasn't for her, there wouldn't be what there is today with logos. Everybody buys things with logos because it has the logo on it. Everybody wants a Gucci bag because it has the Gucci logo on it. Everybody wants the Gucci belt because it has the Gucci logo on it. Everybody wants the Chanel sunglasses because it has the Chanel logo on it. And just like in middle school, everybody wanted the Aeropostale and Abercrombie t-shirts because they had Aeropostale and Abercrombie written on them. This is something that she changed the game in. She predicted that people would be doing that, and they did do that. She knew what she was doing, and it just always blows my mind, her idea behind this logo, and the fact that she also designed her own logo is even more fascinating. And that was not only the first that she was in, she was also the first designer to use jersey fabric in fashionable day wear like dresses, shirts, skirts, suits, and this moved the restrictive corsets and frills away, which is such a big deal. Such a big deal. She changed the game yet again, and she knew exactly what she was doing. Again, she was the first designer to design a suit for women because she loved to wear men's clothes. And because of that, she was inspired to create a suit for women. So if it wasn't for Coco Chanel, you wouldn't be wearing your suit to prom. You wouldn't be wearing your suit to an event. You wouldn't be wearing a suit at all. And yeah, it might have been done, but it wouldn't have been done like Coco Chanel did it. And again, she knew exactly what she was doing, and she knew exactly how to do it. And you have to remember the time that Coco Chanel lived in, and for her to be doing all these things, it's just, she's a literal genius. And it's so mind-blowing how she went about things. And she was a woman. She was a woman, and she really did rock the fashion industry. Because to this day, Coco Chanel is recognized everywhere. She's recognized by so many people, by everybody. You know, she's created her own culture, just like J.K. Rowling. Coco Chanel has impacted us in so many different ways, through fashion, through culture. I really want to talk more about her in a separate individual episode for her, but the two quotes from her that I want to share are, "Beauty begins the moment you decide to be yourself," and "The most courageous act is still to think for yourself aloud." I just can never wrap my head around how much Coco Chanel did and how much she knew. She knew what she was doing, and she did it. She really did it. But the next woman that I'm going to talk about is Aretha Franklin. Aretha Franklin is also known as the Queen of Soul, and she is the first female of the R&B soul music scene. Now, she did so much for her time through her music. She was truly an inspiring woman through her music, and she knew that. And because she knew that, she wrote songs and made songs for specific situations. And the album that I want to talk about is the Chain of Foods album. And Chain of Foods was her way of talking about the harsh criticism from people who followed instead of led. So with that album, she talked not just about her own personal life problems, but she influenced people through that album to be a leader, to stand up for what you believe in, and not just do what others say and what you think others want you to do. And she not only had messages within this album, she had messages within every album, just like I said. And she really has inspired so many people, whether it's through music or through character or through anything that she's inspired somebody through. She was the first woman to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And overall, Aretha Franklin is somebody that holds so much respect because of how she did things. And so the first quote is, "Be your own artist and always be confident in what you're doing. If you're not going to be confident, you might as well not be doing it." The second quote is, "You cannot define a person on just one thing." Both of these quotes are so strong, and they really do make a statement of their own, especially coming from Aretha Franklin. The next woman is Rita Moreno. Rita Moreno is a Latina actress, and she broke Hollywood barriers during her time. Makeup artists would color her skin a lot darker, and she was forced to sing the song America, which had the lyrics of "Puerto Rico, you ugly island of tropic disease." This made her uncomfortable because she was from Puerto Rico, and she spoke up about it. She spoke up for herself, and because she did, the lyrics were changed. But it wasn't just speaking up for herself that was something big she did. It was speaking up for herself with the risk of losing it all. As a Latina female during her time, speaking up was not the easiest thing to do. It was something that could lose your job. It was something that could lose your credibility. And despite her knowing this, she did not care. She spoke up for not only herself, but many others of the world. She never stopped fighting against typecasting and fair representation of Latinos. She was such a strong woman in the way that she did things that if it wasn't for her, a lot of the way that the Hollywood industry respected minorities wouldn't have happened as fast as they did if it wasn't for her. So She was also the first Latina to win an Oscar, Emmy, Grammy, and a Tony. And this has only been accomplished by 15 entertainers. She's done so much, and she truly deserves the recognition that she gets to this day, because she changed the way Hollywood acting industry did a lot of the things. And of course, she was not the only one who broke boundaries, but she is somebody that did a lot, and she stuck by what she believed in and what she stood up for. So the two quotes that I'm sharing are, "It is through art that we will prevail and we will endure. It lives on after us and defines us as people. And you always have to be able to get up, dust yourself off, and move forward." The next woman is Selena Quintanilla. We all know who Selena Quintanilla is. She is another person who is famous and known even by just her first name, Selena. And she is another very powerful, influential Latina woman. In fact, she was such a big influence on the Latino pop culture industry. She was the first female of Tejano music to have a large amount of success. And this was not very common because women were not seen as being able to be popular within Tejano music. But she was, and that said a lot for other women and just said a lot to people in general. And so this opened doors for many women in the Latino music industry. But not only did she influence women within the music industry, she influenced the way that Tejano was performed. As you know, we know that Selena's outfits were unbelievably impactful during the time. I mean, it shows that in the movie. If you've ever watched Selena, it shows that in the movie, you know, with her outfits and her performances. Selena impacted the Latino community in so many different ways. And she didn't just influence the Latino community, she influenced every community with fashion, with music, with performance, with dancing, with everything. But I pertain it to the Latino community because that was her people. And she's just so empowering in that way, that in such a little time that she had that light, that she had that platform, she used it as much as she could to influence in so many different ways. And she knew what she was doing, and she knew how to do it. And so the two quotes from her are, "The goal isn't to live forever, but to create something that will. And if you have a dream, don't let anyone take it away, and always believe that the impossible is always possible." Next, I'm going to talk about Dorothea Lange. Dorothea Lange is somebody that every person needs to know about. Whether you're a woman or a man, Dorothea Lange has influenced us all in so many different ways. And if she hasn't influenced you, or you think that she hasn't influenced you, you definitely need to listen to her and view the work that she's put out. So she's a journalist and photographer, and she traveled America and documented it. She traveled the world, but she is well known for documenting America. One of her most famous photographs that she took is known as the Migrant Mother, and it is one of the most famous images from the Great Depression. Dorothea Lange knew how to photograph people to show the suffering of what they were going through. And she did this to promote and influence social change. She did this to give others the perspective of another's life through photography. And when you learned that she was fired because she did just this, it's absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, because she wasn't cooperating and only photographing white Americans, she was fired. And then when you learn that because she was fired, she didn't stop doing what she wanted to do, is even more mind-blowing, because in her time, that was a big step for a woman. For a woman to be alone, traveling and photographing things that everybody would recognize was such an impactful thing that not just anybody was doing, especially as a woman, because she stood by her beliefs of using her camera as a tool to inspire social change. She wanted to put a human face on suffering for others to look at. That was her big idea. That was her big inspiration for her work, was for people to look at another face and see the suffering, but for it not to just be a face, for it to be something that everybody would remember. And the first clip that you heard at the beginning of this podcast episode of the woman talking was Dorothea Lange. And the two quotes that I'm going to include from her are, "Pick a theme and work it to exhaustion. The subject must be something you truly love or truly hate. And beauty appears when one feels deeply, and art is an act of total attention." Dorothea Lange is just somebody that is so powerful in a way that changed the way people looked at others, and not a lot of people can do that. Not a lot of people can give others the perspective of different people's lives through just a photograph, and cause such an impact that to this day, people know who she is, people know her photographs, and people are still being impacted by them. It's truly amazing. She is just truly amazing, and she is somebody that I know that I will talk about individually in its own podcast episode. But moving on to the next is a woman that not many would recognize for being a historical influential woman, but I think that despite what she is known for, she still has power, and she still gained her power in such a way that every woman should be influenced by, and that is Sandra Avila Beltran. Sandra Avila Beltran is also known as La Reina del Sur, and she is known as the most famous female cartel leader. To be a female cartel leader is something that is very rare. A lot of my listeners are Latinos because locally I live in a border town to Mexico, so the majority of you understand the culture of Mexican men, and that is to be macho. A lot of men in Mexico are macho, and that is a lot of the reason why cartel leaders are men. To this day, they are still men and have always been men and will always be men, because that's a part of the culture in Mexico. And with that being said, that is why I find it so empowering in such a different way that she made it to the top, and she made it to where she wanted to be. Now her past does involve the cartel. You know, she did grow up with it. She did have a lot of connections herself, but that doesn't change the fact that it really was up to her how she wanted to do things, and how she did things was so smart and so well thought out, which is why she even got to where she got to. So she actually wanted to study journalism and communications, but when she was at the university, she realized that she could not have a normal life. You know, her life was bound to cartel no matter what. And because of this was how she made the decision of creating her goal to become the leader of the cartel in Baja California. And she did it. She did it. She knew exactly what she was doing, and she was genius for it because she rose fast, she rose quickly, but she did it in a strategic way that she knew would get her there in a respectable way. Because for a woman to be in a cartel is absolutely insane. She knew what to do. She knew what to do. But not only did she know what she was doing, she knew how to make it look like she knew what she was doing as well. She knew how to fake it till you make it. And that is something that is just absolutely mind-boggling because of how she went about things. She was a figure of determination. You know, she was determined. She had this goal, and she was determined to get to it, and she did. She got to her goal, and nobody stopped her, especially the men. They did not stop her. And it's not because they didn't want to stop her, it's that she didn't let them. She did not let them. And that is something that I feel should be recognized by her. You know, not necessarily the fact that she was a cartel leader, but the fact of how she did things and the fact that the way that she went about things. And so the quote that I'm going to include from her is, "Women in this world are abused, discarded, and tossed out with little more concern than a child abandoning a Barbie doll. Nautical leaders would keep up to 10 women, and this sexual freedom does not extend to their female counterparts. Women are looked at as objects, adornments, or a necessity, but never as a fighting being or a person made of triumphs and achievements." The statement speaks for itself, especially coming from her. Those were the 8 women that I wanted to share with you guys. And again, these are just a handful compared to the many, many, many women that I want to recognize and talk about on this podcast. But I find these women so amazing. And amazing because of the way that they did the things that they did. Amazing because of the way that they took the opportunity that they had of being a woman and making an influential impact. I hope that at least one of these women influenced you in some way or impacted you in some way, whether you're a female or a male. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode because I really did enjoy creating it and recording it for you guys. So please like this video, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys in the next episode.